The vast expanse of space stretched before the transport vessel, stars like pinpricks against the endless void. Inside the dimly lit cabin, Commander Mira, Ghost Tran, studied the holographic display of Helios 9, memorizing every detail of the terrain. The border planet's harsh acid deserts and underground facilities had made it a strategic outpost in the ongoing resource war between the Planetary Alliance and the Democratic Federation. "Final approach in 20 minutes, announced the pilot through the intercom. "Weather conditions, Category 3 acid storms across the northern hemisphere. Landing window is tight." Mira nodded, her focus unwavering. At 42, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of a veteran intelligence officer. Her dark eyes, enhanced with retinal implants that allowed her to see in multiple light spectrums, scanned the faces of her Echo Squadron team members. "One more time," she said, her voice steady. "Objectives and protocol." Orion, the team's network engineer, stepped forward. His fingers danced across a holographic keyboard as he brought up the mission parameters. "Primary objective, neutralize the weapons cache on Helios 9 before the Federation can deploy it against Alliance colonies." His voice carried the methodical precision that had made him legendary among Alliance technicians. Vega, the squad's sniper, cleaned her tactical gear with practiced efficiency. "Intelligence suggests minimal resistance, automated defense systems, drone patrols, maybe a skeleton crew of technicians." Her eyes, cold and calculating, never looked up from her work. "Should be straightforward." "Nothing's ever straightforward," countered Lynx. The team's sabotage specialist, his fingers, artificially enhanced for delicate work, twirled a small device that could bypass most security systems, especially not when military intelligence is involved. Nova, the medical officer, completed her inventory of emergency supplies. Her gentle demeanor belied her expertise in battlefield medicine. "All medical systems are green, acid burn treatments ready, along with standard trauma kits." Mira closed the holographic display with a gesture. "We go in quiet. We get the job done. We come out. The Alliance needs this victory. The Federation's been pushing too hard on too many fronts." The transport shuddered as it entered Helios 9's turbulent atmosphere. Through the viewport, Mira could see the acid clouds swirling below, occasional flashes of lightning illuminating the desolate landscape. It was a harsh, unforgiving world, perfect for hiding weapons that could turn the tide of war. 60 seconds to drop," called the pilot. "Good hunting, Echo Squadron." Mira secured her tactical helmet, checking the seals that would protect her from the planet's corrosive atmosphere. "Remember," she said to her team, "we're the ghosts they never see coming." The transport's bay doors opened, and Echo Squadron descended into the storm. The acid rain patted against their protective suits as they made their way across the barren landscape. Visibility was poor, but their enhanced vision systems cut through the gloom, revealing the outline of the Federation compound 2 kilometers ahead. "Perimeter sensors detected," whispered Orion through the secure comm channel. "Standard configuration. I can loop the feed for 45 seconds. That's our window." Mira gave the signal, and the team moved in perfect synchronization, crossing the invisible barrier that marked the compound's outer defenses. They took cover behind a ridge of corrosion-resistant alloy structures, remnants of earlier mining operations. "That's odd," said Vega, her scope trained on the facility entrance. "No patrol drones, no movement at all." Lynx checked his tactical display. "Power signatures are normal, but defense grid readings are flatlined. That can't be right." Mira felt the first stirrings of unease. "Orion, what are you getting?" The engineer frowned at his scanner. "Commander, I'm reading a complete shutdown of all automated weapons systems. The entire defense grid is offline." "Trap?" asked Vega, already adjusting her position for better coverage. "Possibly," replied Mira. "Or something else entirely." She activated her secure channel to Alliance Command. Echo Leader to Control, we have an anomaly. Requesting intelligence update on Helios 9 defenses. The reply came back garbled, distorted by interference. Echo. Signal. Detected. Proceed with caution. Then silence. We've lost comms, reported Nova, checking her equipment. Some kind of jamming field activated when we tried to transmit. Mira weighed their options. Protocol dictated a retreat in case of communications failure. But the mission was too critical. The Federation weapons cache could devastate Alliance colonies if deployed. We proceed, she decided. But with extreme caution. This is now a stealth mission. No weapons discharge unless absolutely necessary. We move like shadows. Stealth mission? Repeated Lynx with a grim smile. I like it. Old school. They approached the facility entrance, expecting resistance at any moment. The massive blast doors stood partially open, another warning sign. I don't like this, muttered Vega. Where are the guards? The security protocols? Orion connected his portable terminal to a nearby access panel. I'm getting strange code fragments. Something systematically disabled all weapon systems on this base approximately 12 hours ago. It's like someone beat us to the punch. Federation internal sabotage? Suggested Nova. Or a third party, said Mira. Stay alert. We're going in. The interior of the facility was eerily quiet. Emergency lighting cast long shadows down the corridors. The team moved silently, checking each junction and doorway before proceeding. Life signs? Asked Mira. Nova consulted her scanner. Faint readings, lower levels, maybe 20 individuals, but the interference is making it hard to be certain. They descended through the facility, bypassing locked doors with Lynx's expertise. Each level revealed more abandoned workstations and powered-down equipment. This wasn't a hasty evacuation, observed Orion, examining a terminal. This was systematic. Someone methodically shut this place down, but left the data intact, added Lynx, who had accessed another system. There's valuable intelligence here about Federation deployment plans. Mira nodded. Download what you can, but be quick. I want us in and out of here as fast as possible. As Lynx worked, Vega kept watch at the corridor junction. Movement, she whispered suddenly. 2 o'clock, 50 meters. The team froze, their training taking over. In the shadows of an adjoining corridor, a maintenance drone hovered erratically, its sensors damaged but still partially functional. It hasn't detected us yet, said Orion. Its recognition systems are compromised. Mira signaled for the team to hold position as the drone continued its random patrol pattern. After a tense minute, it drifted away down another corridor. That wasn't a Federation drone, said Lynx once it was gone. The design is different, more advanced. Mercenary tech, confirmed Vega, who had captured images with her tactical visor. I've seen it before. Han's outfit uses drones like that. The name sent a chill through the team. Han was notorious in the outer systems, a mercenary commander who specialized in stealth technology and had worked for both sides of the conflict when the price was right. If Han's involved, this just got a lot more complicated, said Mira. His team doesn't leave survivors. Why would the Federation hire mercenaries to disable their own facility? Asked Nova. They wouldn't, replied Mira, which means someone else wants these weapons, or wants to make sure they're never used. A sudden power fluctuation rippled through the facility, plunging them into darkness for several seconds before the emergency systems recovered. That came from the central server room, said Orion, checking his scanner. 2 levels down. It's where the weapons control systems would be housed. Then that's where we're going, decided Mira. If Han or his people are still here, that's where we'll find them. They continued their descent, now even more cautious. The facility seemed to be waking up around them, random power surges, occasional bursts of static over the internal comm systems. and more erratic drones patrolling the corridors. "Someone's trying to restore functionality," said Orion. "But the sabotage was thorough. It's fighting back." They reached a security checkpoint outside the server room level. The reinforced doors had been forced open, the control panels destroyed. "Brute force entry," noted Lynx, examining the damage. "Not Harn's usual style. He prefers finesse." "Unless he was in a hurry," countered Vega. Beyond the checkpoint, they found the first bodies, Federation security personnel, their armor scorched by precision energy weapons. Nova knelt beside one of the fallen soldiers, checking for life signs. "Dead for at least 10 hours, single shots, all fatal. Professional work." "Collect their ident tags," ordered Mira. "Their families deserve to know." As Nova gathered the tags, Orion detected a faint signal. "I'm picking up a transmission. Very low power. Tight beam. Someone's communicating despite the jamming field." "Can you trace it?" asked Mira. Orion adjusted his equipment. "It's coming from the server room, and, there's a response from outside the facility." "They're not alone." Mira considered their next move. "We need to know what we're walking into. Lynx, can you access the security feeds for the server level?" The sabotage specialist connected to a nearby terminal. "Most cameras are offline, but I can reroute through the emergency systems." After a moment of work, a grainy image appeared on his portable display. "There. Server room. Main chamber." The team gathered around the small screen. Inside the vast server room, a group of figures in advanced combat gear worked at various stations. At the center stood a tall, imposing figure that could only be Harn himself, his distinctive armor unmistakable even in the poor quality feed. 8 hostiles visible, counted Vega, all armed with next-gen stealth weapons, and that's definitely Harn. "What are they doing?" asked Nova. Orion studied the feed. "They've bypassed the primary security protocols. It looks like they're not destroying the weapons control systems. They're reprogramming them." "To what end?" wondered Mira. "If I had to guess," said Lynx, "they're setting up a back door. Something that would allow them to remotely access and control these weapons even after the Federation reactivates them." The implications were chilling. Whoever controlled Harn could potentially hijack an entire Federation weapons arsenal. "We need to stop this," said Mira, "but we're outgunned and outnumbered." "Not to mention outclassed in tech," added Lynx. "Their stealth systems are at least 2 generations ahead of ours." Mira's mind raced through options. A direct confrontation would be suicide. Calling for backup was impossible with the jamming field. Retreat would mean allowing Harn to complete his mission. Then she remembered an old lesson from her intelligence training. Sometimes the absence of power is more effective than its application. "Orion," she said, "can you trigger a complete power shutdown in this facility?" The engineer considered this. "The emergency systems would kick in immediately." "Not if they were already compromised," suggested Lynx. Catching on to Mira's thinking, "I could introduce a cascading failure in the backup generators, and in total darkness, with all systems down," began Vega. "Their technological advantage becomes meaningless." Finished Mira. "We level the playing field." "It's risky," warned Nova. "We'd be just as blind." "Not entirely," said Mira, tapping her tactical visor. "Our basic night vision doesn't rely on the facility's power, and we know the layout better than they do. We've been mapping it as we go." The team quickly developed a plan. Orion would initiate a system-wide power failure, while Lynx sabotaged the backup generators. Vega would position herself with a clear line of sight to the server room entrance, ready to provide cover if needed. Nova would prepare emergency medical kits for quick deployment, and Mira would lead the assault once the power went down. "Remember," Mira told them as they moved into position, "no energy weapons unless absolutely necessary. They'll give away your position instantly. Blades and manual weapons only." "Old school indeed," murmured Lynx, checking his combat knife. Orion gave the countdown over their secure comm channel. Initiating shutdown in 3, 2, 1. The facility plunged into absolute darkness as every system simultaneously failed. Through her night vision, Mira saw the emergency lights flicker briefly before Lynx's sabotage took effect, leaving them in perfect darkness. Confused shouts echoed from the server room. Han's team had been caught by surprise. "Move in," ordered Mira, her voice barely above a whisper. Echo Squadron converged on the server room from different approaches. Mira slipped through the main entrance, her steps silent on the metal flooring. In the green glow of her night vision, she could see Han's mercenaries fumbling with their equipment, trying to restore functionality. Han himself stood at the central console, his posture revealing no panic despite the sudden blackout. "Defensive positions," he commanded his team. "This is no malfunction." Mira signaled the attack. Echo Squadron struck from the shadows, swift and silent. Vega's first throw sent a blade into the throat of a mercenary trying to activate an emergency beacon. Lynx disabled 2 more with precisely placed strikes to neural pressure points. Orion used his knowledge of the room's layout to trap another between server banks. Mira headed straight for Han, knowing he was the greatest threat. The mercenary commander sensed her approach and turned with inhuman speed, his augmented reflexes compensating for the darkness. "Alliance Special Forces," he said, his voice distorted by his helmet's vocoder. "I was wondering when you'd arrive." He struck with a vibro blade that hummed dangerously in the darkness. Mira barely evaded the attack, feeling the air displacement as the blade passed centimeters from her face. "You're too late," continued Han, circling her in the darkness. "The modifications are complete. These weapons will serve a new master now." "Who hired you?" demanded Mira, looking for an opening in his defense. Han laughed. "You think this is about money? This is about reshaping the balance of power. The Alliance and Federation have squabbled long enough. It's time for a third option." Around them, the battle continued in near silence, the occasional grunt or impact of body against metal, the only indicators of the life or death struggle taking place. Mira feinted left, then struck from the right, her combat knife finding a gap in Han's armor at the shoulder joint. He hissed in pain but countered with a powerful kick that sent her sprawling against a server rack. "Your team fights well," he acknowledged. "But they're still bound by rules and protocol. My people fight to win, by any means necessary." As if to emphasize his point, one of his mercenaries activated an emergency flare, bathing the room in harsh chemical light that temporarily blinded everyone relying on night vision. Mira tore off her tactical visor, blinking away the pain as her eyes adjusted. Across the room, she saw Nova pinned down by a mercenary with a vibroblade at her throat. Vega was engaged in hand-to-hand combat with 2 opponents at once. Orion and Lynx were nowhere to be seen. Han advanced on Mira, his imposing figure now clearly visible in the flare's light. Blood seeped from the wound at his shoulder, but he showed no signs of slowing. "A valiant effort," he said, raising his blade for a killing strike. But ultimately futile. The strike never landed. A server panel directly above Han suddenly detached from its housing and crashed down on him, driving him to the floor. Behind where the panel had been stood Orion, his expression grim. "Systems engineer," he said by way of explanation. "I know how things come apart." Mira didn't waste the opportunity. She launched herself at the temporarily stunned Han, driving her knife toward a weak point in his armor. The mercenary commander rolled aside at the last moment, but not fast enough to avoid a deep gash across his side. "Echo Squadron," called Mira. "Status." 3 hostiles down, reported Vega, finally gaining the upper hand against her opponents. 2 more incapacitated, added Lynx, emerging from behind a server bank with blood on his hands. "Nova's injured but stable," said Orion, who had moved to assist the medical officer. That left 2 mercenaries unaccounted for, plus Han himself. who was now backing toward the main server console. "It doesn't matter," said the mercenary commander, his voice strained from his injuries. "The code is already in place. One transmission from my ship, and the weapons turn against their makers." "Your ship won't be sending any transmissions," replied Mira. "Not with the jamming field still active." Harn's helmet tilted slightly, the equivalent of a smirk. "The jamming field that I installed? The one that's specifically calibrated to block Alliance and Federation frequencies but allow mine through? That jamming field?" Mira realized with dawning horror that they'd misunderstood the situation entirely. The jamming wasn't to prevent communication, it was to ensure that only Harn's team could communicate. "Orion," she called urgently, "can you block his transmission?" The engineer was already at a terminal, his fingers flying across the interface. "Working on it, but I need time." "You don't have time," said Harn, pressing a control on his wrist gauntlet. "Countdown initiated. My ship launches the signal in 3 minutes. After that, every weapon in this facility will target Alliance colonies. Millions will die." "Why?" demanded Mira, keeping her distance but ready to strike. "What do you gain from this slaughter?" "Chaos," replied Harn simply, "from which a new order will emerge. One not built on the corrupt foundations of either the Alliance or Federation." The flare's light was beginning to fade, the chemical reaction burning out. Soon they would be in darkness again. "Lynx," called Mira, "help Orion stop that transmission. Vega, secure the perimeter. Nova, how mobile are you?" "I can move," replied the medical officer, pressing a bandage to a wound on her arm. "Good. Find any surviving mercenaries and make sure they stay down." Mira turned her full attention to Harn, who was watching her with what seemed like grudging respect. "You adapt well, Commander," he said. "Most Alliance officers would be paralyzed by indecision in this situation." "I'm not most officers," replied Mira, circling him cautiously. "Last chance to abort the transmission." Harn shook his head. "We're beyond negotiation. The clock is ticking." The flare sputtered out, plunging the room back into darkness. Mira immediately dropped and rolled, anticipating Harn's attack. Sure enough, he lunged forward, his blade slicing through the air where she had been standing. Using the sound of his movement to track him, Mira struck at his injured side. Harn grunted in pain but caught her arm, twisting it painfully. 2 minutes remaining, he announced, applying more pressure to her captured limb. Mira drove her head backward, connecting with Harn's helmet. The impact sent pain shooting through her skull, but it loosened his grip enough for her to break free. "Orion, status," she called, ducking behind a server bank. "Almost there," came the strained reply. "The encryption is like nothing I've seen before." "Lynx?" "Working on a hardware solution," replied the sabotage specialist. "If we can't stop the transmission, maybe we can destroy the receiver." Harn's laugh echoed in the darkness. "My ship has multiple redundant systems. Destroy one. The others take over seamlessly." Mira needed a new approach. Direct combat wasn't working, and they were running out of time. Then she remembered something from the intelligence briefing on Harn, a detail about his past. "What would your sister think of this?" she asked, her voice carrying in the silent room. "Dr. Alara wouldn't approve of mass murder." Harn went still. "How do you know that name?" His voice had lost its mechanical edge, revealing genuine surprise. "Alliance Intelligence has a complete profile on you. Kierden Harn," continued Mira, using his full name, "including how your sister died treating casualties on Proxima Colony during the Federation bombing run." "The Federation denied responsibility," said Harn, his voice tight with controlled rage. "The Alliance did nothing to investigate." "So this is revenge," said Mira, slowly moving to flank him in the darkness. "But not just against the Federation, against both sides." "Justice," corrected Harn. "Neither side values life, they only understand power. so I'll take their power away. By becoming what you hate, challenged Mira. By killing innocents, just as your sister died. Han's silence told her the words had struck home. Mira pressed her advantage. Dr. Elara devoted her life to healing. This desecrates her memory. 1 minute, announced Han, but his voice lacked conviction. Commander, called Orion suddenly. I found a weakness in the code, but I need direct access to Han's command module to exploit it. Mira understood what needed to be done. Han, she said, stepping into the open despite the danger, you can still honor your sister's legacy. Help us stop this. The mercenary commander's outline was barely visible in the darkness. His posture had changed, the confidence replaced by uncertainty. 45 seconds, he said, but it sounded more like he was reminding himself than threatening them. I was there, said Mira, taking another step toward him. On Proxima, I saw what the bombing did. I helped evacuate survivors to the medical center where Dr. Elara worked. This wasn't a lie. Years ago, before Echo Squadron, Mira had been stationed on Proxima during the attack. She had witnessed the horror firsthand. She worked for 36 hours straight, continued Mira, saving everyone she could, Federation and Alliance alike. She didn't discriminate. 30 seconds, said Han, but he made no move to stop Mira's approach. What you're doing now, it makes her death meaningless. It turns her into just another casualty in an endless cycle of revenge. Mira stood directly before Han now, close enough to strike or be struck. Neither moved. 15 seconds, said Han, his voice barely audible. Help us, urged Mira. Honor her by ending this cycle, not perpetuating it. For a moment, that seemed to stretch into eternity. Han remained motionless. Then, with a movement so swift Mira almost missed it, he pressed a sequence on his wrist gauntlet. Transmission aborted, he announced. But the code remains in the system. Someone else could activate it. Orion? Called Mira. I can purge it if I have access to his command codes, replied the engineer. Han hesitated, then extended his arm toward Mira. The interface on my gauntlet. The access code is Elara's promise. Mira guided him to where Orion waited at a terminal. The engineer quickly connected the gauntlet to his system and began the process of erasing the malicious code. Why the change of heart? Asked Mira quietly. Han removed his helmet, revealing a scarred face with eyes that had seen too much suffering. You were right about Elara. She wouldn't want this. She always believed there was a better way. There is, affirmed Mira. But finding it requires people willing to put down their weapons first. Code purged, announced Orion. The weapon systems are clean. And my ship? Asked Han. Disabled but intact, replied Lynx from across the room. Your crew has been neutralized non-lethally, he added, noticing Han's expression. The facility's emergency lighting suddenly flickered on as the backup systems finally reset. In the harsh illumination, the aftermath of their conflict was fully visible. Damaged equipment, incapacitated mercenaries, and the exhausted members of Echo Squadron. What happens now? Asked Han, looking at the Alliance team surrounding him. Now we make a choice, said Mira. We can report this exactly as it happened, a mercenary team attempting to hijack Federation weapons for a third-party attack. You'd face Alliance justice. Or, prompted Han, sensing an alternative. Or we report that we found the facility already abandoned. The weapon systems disabled by unknown means. We take credit for neutralizing the threat. And you use your considerable talents to help prevent future conflicts, not instigate them. Han studied her face, looking for deception. Why would you offer me that choice? Because sometimes the mission is about more than following orders, replied Mira. Sometimes it's about making the right decision when no one's watching. The mercenary commander considered this. And my team, same deal. They follow your lead. Hearn extended his hand. Elara would have liked you, Commander Tran. Mira accepted the handshake. I wish I could have met her. The journey back to Alliance space was conducted in silence. Echo Squadron had transmitted their official report. Mission successful. Weapons cache neutralized. 0 Alliance casualties. 0 ammunition expended. The stealth mission had become a textbook example of unconventional tactics. Only the 5 members of Echo Squadron knew the full truth of what had transpired on Helios 9. And somewhere in the outer systems, a mercenary commander and his team had disappeared, their fate a mystery to both the Alliance and Federation intelligence networks. 3 months later, as tensions between the major powers reached another breaking point, both sides received identical intelligence packages exposing corruption and war, profiteering at the highest levels of their military commands. The source was untraceable, but the data was irrefutable. Peace negotiations began within a week. In her quarters, aboard the Alliance carrier Resolute, Mira Ghost Tran received a secure message on a frequency that shouldn't have existed. It contained only 4 words. Elara's promise lives on. She deleted the message and looked out at the stars. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, full of threats and challenges, but sometimes, just sometimes, silence spoke louder than weapons fire. And the absence of conflict was the greatest victory of all.